Hey traders, this is Taylor with Top Pick Trading. I want to give you guys a bar by bar today. So today is Wednesday, February 1st, and it's FOMC day. So let's get started. So you come in around 8 o'clock. This is what you'd see. Looks like a range to me. Maybe something like this. You've got an uptrend here. Notice these are the overnight highs, overnight lows. That's why we marked those. So this uptrend now has a break and an attempt at a retest, but let's see how the next ones form. Okay, so we drop back to the EMA. We get a huge spike. No way to take this. By the time it closed, it already made the new high. So let's just keep watching. You can see this resistance still holding. Get like a third entry, lower high, but towards the middle of this range and way too congested. Still just straight congestion. You can mark this if you want to. Drop out of the congestion, push a little bit lower, like maybe a little micro trend working here. Break out of the micro trend, 3 bullish bars up to the EMA and then the midline. We didn't quite reach the overnight lows. Then at this point, I would also see that now we have 2 touches here, and here, and then this third one here. So the range could be more like this with a little failed breakout. I'd be flexible on this, but I'd draw it like this for now after this bounce. Now the market is open, just flat EMA, not much going on, and which is pretty common on FOMC day before the chair speaks. Get a second entry long, but like I said, just straight congestion. Floating around the middle. Get a nice bar here, but it's unclear what's happening. We're in the middle of this range, so in my opinion, no trade. You can see this is just barbed wire whipsawing. Really not much here, and if you want to, you can draw a little smaller range here. Typically, sometimes I just won't draw them when they're really small like this and in the middle of a bigger range. We get a failed second entry long, but a lot of times these will fail if it's coming out of a range like that. And return to the range. We drop to this resistance area too. So let's see how that, or I'm sorry, the support area. Let's see how that acts. Terrible bars, just dojis, not much happening. Bouncing a little bit. Get a lower, well, not even a lower high, just like a first entry short would have stopped you. Pushing back up through the range. Looks like potentially a bigger trend here. Maybe something like this. Sometimes this may be too wide for a range, but we'll watch this for now. Get like a little return to the EMA with a second entry, but the bar's not all that great, and it's just still, it's at the bottom of this congestion, but it's still kind of unclear to me what's happening. It does bounce there. It's unfortunate this bar wasn't at least a little better to be able to consider a second entry long, but in my opinion, not good enough. And honestly, anything mid-range is just dangerous. So even if this bar was great, I don't know if I would even consider it still. We get the break and new high now. We get a higher low here, breaking out of this range, but the higher low is right into the highs, and you wouldn't want to short this yet either because it's already right back in the middle, right into the EMA, which just held, so really just no setups. We break out on the higher low. I don't always have to draw these the breaks, but sometimes I'll draw them. Get like a failed breakout way up here, but bar's not all that great. Get like a lower high, and then wow, that must have been a news item. So no way to take that. We get a failed second entry long, but notice how all this price action here is inside of this one massive bar. And it looks like this, all of this is in a minute's time, so this is going pretty fast. You probably were wanting to wait this out anyway. Suggested, so a lot of reasons not to take this in my opinion. Didn't trigger anyway. Get a higher low, but you're still all within this bar, so you're really going to want to wait for the price action to break out of this big bar here. Drop back into the range. Now we've got a micro trend that's working fairly decent down to the lows. Bouncing at those lows. Notice this support's pretty much holding, so we know that this is the right one versus this. We do bounce at those lows. Get a really strong micro trend back up to the EMA and the midline. It dumps again. Maybe there's a bigger, that actually looks pretty decent right there. It's a little wide because it's not touching this, but sometimes those news items, it won't always be off the body. So, but just keep in mind the wider trends and ranges don't always play out with the rules, like get it break and retest sort of thing. So anyway, this is just a first entry. There's a micro uptrend working fairly strongly, so change this to black. So no trade here anyway. Bouncing at the lows now. Back up to the EMA. Coming off those lows, you're not going to want to take us. This is a new low anyway, so it's really just a first entry, but you wouldn't want to take a second entry after you bounce like that anyway. Push them through. Just a first entry short, doesn't trigger. Looks like it's already got the break and new high. Now you get the first entry short, and this looks sort of like a visual failed second entry short, but you're right back in the middle. This hasn't retested. It's kind of unclear what's happening. We came pretty much off the highs too, so now we could be working back to the lows. Like I've said, anything in the middle of this range, unless there's a very clear trend, is just going to be really dangerous. Didn't trigger anyway. Now it triggers. Chopping inside, second entry long, but out in space. High or low. The bar setup's tempting on this, but I mean, it's just right in the middle. I can't do it. It would have worked. This, if you notice, I know this works here, but it looks very similar to this. It's just barbed wire, so I'm not able to read this, and usually that's because there's not strong enough of a bias to either side. You may have some short strap there, but I still can't do it. But now we're bouncing off the highs. Get a first entry long, but it's a little congested. It fails. No trade on the lower high. It's right back into the middle where we just bounced, and it's very congested. And into the low of the micro move. So now we are at the lows. No real setup here. Get like a lower high, but it's lower than the support, so no way. Dropping a lot lower. At this point, we'd want to watch for a measured move. Dropping all the way, so definitely looks like a bigger trend here. Get a close outside. New low, higher low really got some good strength, but and we are pretty much bouncing right at this low, but we may get a more significant correction before we retest again. So I think this trade's too risky and a lot of risk there, 15 ticks. So first entry short, no trade. See if we can get potentially a second entry. Nope, drops back to the low. We get a triple bottom. Now we've retested this. Well, technically with you got the move down and you got two legs to a new low each time here. So let's see if there's either a bigger trend at play or if we bounce here. We get some congestion and bounce. And if you want to draw it at this point, you can draw this little range area here. Get a first entry short. Looks like potentially a micro uptrend here. We bounce here. Could be this. Doesn't fit perfectly, but sorry. But I'll be watching this. Now we get a second entry, but it's above the EMA, and it's a little bit above this resistance level. So there you go. At access support. The way this closes, this is basically a double bottom, so it's a failed second entry short. I wouldn't take this on the close, but if you took this, if it just ticked lower and turn up, if you took this on the engulfing bar, I think this is a decent trade. Still a little bit congested. and you really didn't gap above the EMA, but the fact that this has been so rangy all day and we perfectly moved to that measured move, this leg up has a little bit of strength, so a failure may trap enough shorts to at least bring it back to the original range lows. And this is also at this little bit wider key entry point. It could be even something like this that still fits fairly decently. So there you go. You would have gotten your scalp for if you're going for smaller targets. Now you would have gotten a bigger target. This looks like it's still holding. Maybe just a little bit of an overshoot. Working sideways right into that midline. Notice the lower support line didn't act as resistance at all. Blew right through that, but now we're at the midline. Great congestion. Still EMA or key entry point of the trend line holding. It close outside, new high now. Returns to the EMA. Obviously, just a little congestion here. Right. Now we got a micro move working down. Support is not holding. You could expect maybe another retest of this if the EMA held, but we already got the close outside and a new high. So looks like we're working lower now. We got some decent strength here on this move. Lower high, but formed way too low. Expand this just a little bit. Let's see. That fits pretty well now. No setup, just too far from the EMA. Still within this micro downtrend. Maybe a close outside and new low there, but doesn't look significant enough. If I just barely expand it again, it still fits pretty well. Now we're at the lows here. Went a little bit lower. Get a good bar, but it was in that trend, so I don't think you can take that. Get a really strong micro move back to the EMA. We'll see what the EMA does. You get a first entry short, you get a doji, and then you get a second entry short. This is not the worst looking setup, but that doji really takes a lot away from this trade. And then this micro trend hasn't really gotten the break and retest. I know this was a strong move down, but the fact that we bounced so strongly right in this measured move support area makes me leery of this. It's really tempting, but looking back, I don't think this is that great of a setup. There was no follow through on the first entry, and you just got congestion. So you can see it retraced. Looks like you would have probably gotten out of a little scalp. Now we have a straight congestion area. Lower high, this is just too congested to consider anything. And you would have gotten a decent little scalp. Let's see if you took it on the engulfing. You would have gotten a 2-point scalp out of that. But you would have had to ride all this out, so I wouldn't recommend that. The edge is lost after you've been going sideways for whatever that is, 10 bars. Bounce at those in that support area again. And now it's 1 o'clock and FOMC is approaching, so I wouldn't recommend trading anything here. And here you go, the meeting started right at 2. Going crazy. Don't trade any of this. You get this fairly decent failed second entry short here. It closes pretty high up. But I still think this is too early relative to FOMC to try to take this. And how big is it? 25 ticks. I did watch it live, and it formed really nicely, but just way too volatile and close to these highs. So I wouldn't take that. It's still too early after Jerome Powell started speaking. You get the close outside. You get like this little triple top here. It's still moving fast. I'd wait at least like 20 minutes or so. So still want to draw your price action, but we're at 17 minutes. Lower high way into it, into the lows of the trend channel. And now we're right at 20 minutes, so we can start looking for something. Still got to be leery because it's moving really fast. Get a first entry short, second entry short here, but sideways. Never would have triggered anyway. Just very sideways. And now this downtrend has played out. We may run all the way to the lows though. And we run really quickly to the lows. And it doesn't look like there's a... That looks too wide to me. It overshot it anyway, so I don't see a wider pattern here. This just looks like a leg down, a two-legged correction, and a leg down. Excuse me. And then now this strong move has a break and new low as well. So now we are bouncing like right at this low from when the news really started. It's like a failed breakout from this. I still wouldn't take it. The bar's not that great anyway. You see, you would have lost. So let's see what happens at the EMA. I don't see a bigger trend in here. Starting to spike in channel. That low feels wrong. Now we push to the EMA. Got a pretty strong move now. Back inside this bigger range here. You get a first entry short. Just ever so slightly widen that. Still fits pretty well. It's really off the first three swings still. And you get a second entry short here. Looks like the first close outside of this. Notice it's right at the support. The bar's not great, but sometimes you can hold your nose on failures if this moved really fluently and probably lured in shorts. Right at the EMA. First close outside, right at the support. During this news, this is a measly 15 tick bar. So I think this one's okay to take a chance on. If it breaks above this bar, it's probably going to trap a lot of shorts because this move here had a lot of intensity to it. And there you go. You would have gotten a huge scalp. Really runs higher. Blows right through this previous range resistance. Got like another trend here. Just keeps working higher. And now notice the size of the break and new high is a lot larger than the move up itself. So this looks a little odd. Sometimes when these channels really just keep going, you want to widen it and see how it ends up fitting. That looks okay. Oops. Just looks like a very large channel. I mean, this channel in here was still valid, but there may just be a bigger one. And notice this swing touches right here where this whole thing started. So this could be valid. Let's keep watching. Get a first entry long. Second entry long that bounces pretty much at the trend line, but man, it's so far from the EMA. It's also very close to that 10 o'clock news item high. So too far for me. I can't take that. Really good bar, but no way for me. Would have worked. It held. Huge move out of it. This looks like it's going to be a big rally now. You see that EMA is pointing straight up. Trend line's holding. We're breaking above the highs. Get just a first entry. Returns to the EMA. So we can expect a retest on this high. So let's see if we get a good second entry. This looks more like a double top, so I'd be leery of taking just a first move. I mean, this is really the first leg down, so I'd be leery of taking a good bar right here. I'd want probably a true two-legged move. Doesn't matter, you get a bad bar. First entry to a new high, so not anything you can do there. Notice that EMA held on the break. So a lot of the times when the EMA holds on the first break of a really strong channel, there may be an even bigger channel at play or a spiking channel. This doesn't hold that well. This looks like a clear spike up here. So maybe something like this. Notice those highs fit really well. And with these, I mean, you just have to play with these in real time and as they develop, and that helps you find them. So, yep, and it holds. You get a first entry long, second entry long, right at the midline. So bearish. I mean, it's so bullish, but still just too far from the EMA, congested, right into the highs, and potentially this spiking channel isn't valid, and this is just a break and new high. So get a triple top, but too bullish to take this. No trade here. Get a first entry. You can see that actually would have survived to the tick, but no way. Doesn't quite get back to the key entry point. Just kind of play with it a little bit and see if you can get it to fit a little better. Still fits really well. Like that same pattern again right here. Well, this is really a first entry, but it just kind of looks like that two-legged pullback really far from the EMA. So that one wouldn't have worked on you. This is a congestion area. This really is too. It's a triple test here, but bar's not that great. Near the high still. Look at that little small bar, 4 ticks. Wouldn't short this though. Look at the EMA. You get a close outside here. And this is really a double top, so this is just a first entry, so no trade there. And it's kind of below the support anyway. And we got one right into the highs. We get a like a higher, just a higher low, but once again near the highs. I don't think you can take that. We're just going sideways now. We get a second entry long, failed second entry short, and it's very bullish. So I mean, it's tempting, but come on, it's a quadruple top. So I mean, looking at this back in hindsight, I really don't like this trade. Right into the highs like that, it's just risky. It's probably going to trap shorts here. It's so bullish, but I mean, that's a huge 23 tick risk to chance that. I don't think so. No trade there. Looks like it would have worked for a decent scalp. Now we just get a first entry right after a new high and a break in new high. Not really back at support yet. It's like a breakout pullback, but you really need those to at least be with trend, and not after a new high ideally. So no trade there either. Good bar, so it probably roped some people in, but it's really right back at that. I say it's a breakout pullback, but really it closes right back into that resistance level. So no trade there. You see that would have, well, you'd still be in for now. Now it would have stopped you out. Second entry, there's no bar. This looks like, that looks too wide to me. Now you get, so unfortunately, a third entry long. It is right at the support level, so you may, I mean, the thing is, all the uptrends have played out, but this is really the first significant gap below the EMA right here. So you may consider taking a chance on this, like a quadruple test, but I wouldn't want to go past, you know, the EMA or the top of this bar, because the EMA is now holding right there. I'm not going to mark it, but that one's close. You would have gotten the scalp, depending on what you went for. Yeah, it still went 5 points, so you would have gotten the scalp, and it may keep working higher. Let's see. Get a lower high, but you're just working in the middle of this range. Notice that EMA just kept holding there, so that's why it's dangerous when you see a big rejection bar off the EMA like this. It still looks like a break and 2 legs to a new low. And you get this little failed breakout, but no way to take it with this large bearish bar right before. And all the uptrends could be played out. Keep that in mind. This was really strong, so a lot of times you're going to get a second leg here, but just have to kind of wait and see. Pushes off the EMA again. This is like technically a failed second entry long, but you're fading a breakout. So sorry, you're trading into a breakout. So no way. New low here. Strong push above the EMA. Get a higher low, but breaks one above and then it closes right into the high. So no way. No setup here really. Inside bar. We got the new high on that now. Now we're working higher. Maybe it's a bigger trend. See if it fits. Higher low, look how far away we are, so no setup. Just holding pretty well. Delete this. Keeps working higher. Oh yeah, it's holding that trend line really well right there. So it makes sense. I mean, you got the new high here, but a big move like this usually needs a more significant retest. So it's like we're getting that. And at this point, I would be cautious to start looking for bigger channels. The way this held right here and shot higher, there may be something bigger here. So I really like these clear bodies working higher right here. So this looks like this has some potential. So we'll keep an eye on this one. Just another spiking channel. A lot of gap right here, but the way this looks is really nice right in here. So let's watch. First entry long and congestive. Drops lower, no setup. Get this little failed break lower from this congestion, but again, no setup, similar to this one here. Now we get a higher low below the MA. Bar's not that great, but it's bouncing right at this key entry point. I wouldn't take a chance on it because we really don't know if this is valid yet. Drops below it. And at this point, I should probably draw this. So we've got a couple touches of this, but it may not be valid, like I was saying. Looks like we get an overshoot from the downtrend. 3 strong bullish bars, 4 strong bullish bars, which is above the EMA. High or low, but man, it formed so high, and we did overshoot this, but it could still retest. I don't really like that either. Technically get a failure, but really far again, so there's no way to take that. We fall here on like a third entry short, no setup. Now we get the like just a first entry pretty much, so no setup there because it looks like we may retest this low now, and this bar is pretty strong, and the uptrend's played out, and we don't know if this is valid. Wouldn't have triggered anyway. Get like a little visual second entry, and then a higher low that doesn't break below. So it looks like we're getting 2 legs up now. We get a higher low here, but it's right into that resistance there. Oops, sorry. It's a little bit of resistance right here, and there's a little bit of tail on the top of that. So I don't think you can take that. It's just a little too risky for me. Maybe at this point, I'd start looking for another variation since that didn't end up fitting really well. Bounced twice here. And wow, look at the highs on that. Touches really well here and here. This does look like one move up, so it makes sense that it could start from here. It's not able to make it to the lows here, but we get 2 touches here. And you can see that midline kind of coming into play right in here, especially, and a little bit here. So maybe this is valid. We'll start watching this one and keep it in mind. Looks like that higher low would have worked out for you. And to close outside a first entry, let's see if we can get a second entry. We are getting close to these highs, but this has just been so bullish. The EMA's got a good chance to hold. Fortunately, we got a new high on the first entry, which is higher now. And look at the midline holding here on this bigger channel. But now the retest is pretty much as big as the channel itself, so I'd start looking for a bigger one. That looks like it fits decently. Let's see if it keeps holding. And it does. We overshoot the big channel. And now look, from the purple spiking channel here, we've got a break, 2-legged correction, and 2 legs to a new high. And let's just see if we can measure this and get a decent estimate. It's like maybe there to here. And we've gone past that measured move. You could draw this a couple different ways, but that'd probably be the first way I'd draw it. Still working in this channel. Get a first entry long. Runs to a new high again, so no setup. So now we've overshot twice, and this looks like it. I'd caution from doing this, but it does fit pretty well. I'll keep it like this for now because it could be an overshoot. And I just realized we're already at 15 till the close, so really this is definitely past when you want to trade anyway. So yeah, there you have it. Almost nothing today, even with this big movement here. There's some you could have taken a chance on, but personally I couldn't do it. Like this second entry long here, not for me. What else? This is just so sideways. This one's an iffy one right here. I'll mark it just so you see what I'm talking about. You could maybe take a chance on that one. It's at some support, but really this support, the thing is, this support's not really been sending prices higher consistently. Like it's still kind of just fluttering around in here. It's not really rejecting prices, so I still caution you from that one, especially with that big setup bar. So I'm not going to mark it, but so yeah, there you go. There you have it. FOMC day. Not many setups. Went sideways as which is pretty normal. We're ranging early on in this really tight area here. We get a failed breakout to the range lows. I'm sorry, to the measured move of the range. A failed second entry short that I like on the engulfing bar. Get another move down, FOMC, so don't trade in this. Then when it starts calming down, maybe 20 minutes or so after the meeting, right in here, get this 2 legs down, failed breakout from these lows, and then we get another failed second entry short, kind of like a repeat pattern of this a little bit. That sends it higher, and then we just don't get many setups all the way to the close. So unfortunate there that a lot of these spots that we were looking for didn't get a good bar, and also a lot of times on these runaway trends, it's just hard to be able to find the next variation of the uptrend because you're thinking that one is played out, and yet there's just a wider one. For instance, like right here, you think at the time, this is the uptrend and it's played out now, and yet you just have to widen it, and it makes more sense. So these days can be tough, but if you are able to catch one, I mean, if you caught this, I mean, wow, what an easy runner. And let's just say you were feeling lucky and you wanted to hold it to the measured move. Once you establish that measured move, that would have been 89 points. So if you can just catch one in something like this, it's really great and can reward you a lot. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Marco will be back on Friday for his usual bar by bar. So yeah, make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already, if you do enjoy these videos, and we'll keep it coming. Thanks, guys.